Well, I'm not talking, you idiot. Yes, I'm the same as I always was. If you thought I went to the hospital to have my attitude adjusted, fat fucking chance. It didn't happen. Do you know the whole time I've been in the hospital that I have been laughing? The nurses there just got such a kick out of my sense of humor because they have such, dreary days that I would actually have nurses who would come in after their shift and sit with me and just talk and listen to my stupid stories. And like a nurse would come and ask you something, and then they would in the hospital they would they get their answer and they go away. Well, you know that I can't answer a question and not tell a story. So and they would actually, like, oh, just shut up. They not say that. They would wait to hear the whole story. And I doubt that many people go to the hospital and after 5 days have 3 of the nurses get your email so they can send you emails and talk to you. I doubt that many people have that kind of reaction. So I have been laughing. I actually, one night, now I don't remember what it was that I said. I don't remember, it was a young girl, and I don't remember, she was taking me somewhere, and I can't think of what it was, that it was part of a story, and I made her laugh so hard. She says, I have to leave you here and go to the bathroom because I'm going to piss my pants. She was a very sweet girl, very sweet, and some of them, it was funny because it would have been nice to have a recording of some of the conversations, discussing, you know how we sometimes have discussions about life and death and things like that, and there were a couple of them that I would love to have had the transcript of the conversation. So, oh my God, now we're fucked. It's back from... Guys, can you do me one favor? I'm interested to know. I'm going to say yes, and I want you to say yes once you hear it. Okay? I'm timing because I believe that we have a very large lag. Well, we also talked about big tits. So, universe, life, everything, and big tits. Are you ready for the test? Starting now, yes. So the voice is not lagging. Back from, it was an idiot test and you failed. If you didn't understand the test and you ask questions, it means that you're an idiot. I'm sorry. We will do the test tomorrow again. If you'll study, maybe you'll not fail the test this time. That was humor. That was a joke. That was a pretty good joke, don't you think? I don't know if Backroom got the humor out of that. Oh, he did. It was an idiot test and you failed. Let me just put this box down. No, I don't have to go to the hospital again. I thought that this morning would be the only time that I explained to people in detail what happened, because I believed that you guys would not be prejudiced and would prefer to know the truth. But I'm not going to talk about sickness or anything else after this. If you don't want to know details, now would be the time to go and have breakfast. But I thought a few of you, like Brooks and Kabloo, might want to understand what I've always sidestepped. I've never really, when people ask me about disability, I have always sidestepped it and never really explained to anyone what I meant and why the TV and radio exist. So I thought I would take the time to tell a few of you, and I would hope that you're open-minded and understand why, in a way, that I lied and didn't tell you the real truth, because I wasn't sure that many people would be prepared to understand. So you ready for my long tale of the Tebian sickness? Brooks, Kabloo, almost 20 years ago, maybe a little longer, I was living in Greenwich Village in New York City. If you don't know, Greenwich Village is, at that time was the height of freedom. It was like the flower power days. But during that time, there was to give an example, there were sex houses in the village that like one of them was 5 stories tall, and you went into these places at night and you could have sex all night long. That's how free sex was. And that is the reason why, or how, AIDS started. Because in that situation, there was no hope that you would ever have controlled it, because the society around it was love and free sex. Okay? So, and it wasn't a bad thing. It was like the 80s, where everybody smoked joints and painted their faces. It was just part of that era. It's hard to believe now, for some people to believe that there were places like that, but there were. In fact, I saw Bette Midler sing at the St. Mark's Bath, which was just strictly a bathhouse where people went and stayed all night long to have sex. And so that's how, in light of that, that's how AIDS started. Okay? During that time is when I got AIDS. Many of my friends got AIDS. Most died right away because there was no, at that time they called it cancer. They didn't call it AIDS even. A little later on, they came out, they decided to use the cancer medication called AZT. The problem was they didn't know how much to give to people, and they killed a lot more people with the AZT because they didn't know what they were testing, and they really didn't know. And there were more of my friends died from overdosing of AZT than they did of the initial, like PCP pneumonia and things like that, when they didn't have any medication. I told you it was going to be heavy, but I'm going to say it one time so that I feel good and that I know that maybe I touch a few people who can understand and learn from it. So I'm hoping you don't just turn the channel off and go, oh my God, I can't stand this. In all the time that people ask, do you work, I always say disability. In 1998, I became full-blown AIDS, but they consider that I had full-blown AIDS since the very beginning. There's a difference between HIV positive, which there are a lot of people that are HIV positive, and the HIV never does anything to them. It's kind of like having, not syphilis, but, put it this way, there are a lot of people, and you probably know them, and I would hate to think that you are positive, but for a while there, it was a great thing that people actually that dated a lot, would go and just get the test, just to see if they were positive. And many of them found out, oh my God, I am positive, But in 1998, I was officially put as full-blown. There was not really outward symptoms, except that I was in the hospital for 10 days during that time and given morphine every 3 hours because I was in extreme pain. After 10 days, they just released me, which I don't think people know. You can be like in a movie, a dramatic movie, how we're sending them home because there's no hope. Well, they do that, and there was no hope back then. After the 10 days, they would just keep giving me the morphine, but there was no hope of me ever recovering. That I was wasting from throwing up. I couldn't stop throwing up. Okay. I recovered because I went home and I was still on morphines, and my friend that I knew at the time was a terrible alcoholic, and we spent the next few months drinking ice beers. Yes, ice beers saved my life. Actually, we were just so stoned out of our minds drinking ice beers and taking morphine that I think my body just forgot that it was supposed to be dying. And I recovered and went on to for several years living on my own. I think the next time, like, to skip ahead a little bit to now. Okay, 5 years ago, I moved here with my parents. The reason why is because the whole family had been living in Miami or nearby, and when my parents moved up here, everyone was afraid of a situation like this, that there would be no one there to help me out, and they wanted me to come with them to their house. So they actually built this house with a suite for me. It's not an apartment. It's not like having an apartment on the back of the house. This is an actual suite that has living room and all these things. The amenities are incredible. The room that I'm in has sliding glass doors that go out to the pool complex. So they spent a lot of money to make me comfortable. But when I came up here, I stopped taking my medication. And all the time since the beginning of AZT, I took my medications. Many times I got sick and they had to change the medication because I couldn't keep it down. Various things went wrong, so we had to change it, and I've actually taken most of the HIV medications that are out there over the years. The last medication that I took caused me to have a very large hump on my back. It's a side effect that some AIDS medications have. I look like the Hunchback of Notre Dame because not only did I have the very large hump on my back, my stomach protruded out like I was pregnant. It's a side effect, and the doctors consider it because of where I was in the disease, they consider it to be a side effect which is manageable. Like my doctor said, you may not look pretty, but you're still alive. When we moved here, I decided, after so many years of taking medication, that I would no longer take my medication. So for 5 years now, I haven't taken my medication, and I look very good. I'm in pain at times, and I have various, like throwing up and things like that, but I did very good for 5 years. So I got 5 years without medication. What happened the other day is it finally said, that's enough. You're not going without your medication anymore. We're going to, my body went berserk. And it's too bad I was in public. I thought that I had a bad stomach ache, and they took me to the clinic because I have not had a doctor in 5 years either. And when I got in the clinic, the doctor took one look at me and he said, I am putting you in an ambulance to the hospital right now. I said, oh, I guess it's that bad. He scared the fuck out of me is what he did. So that's how I ended up in the hospital. What happened in the hospital during this time is that they did all the tests to check the various levels of, whether I have spinal meningitis, whether I have liver problems, whether I have whatever. And to be blunt, why I joked about the farting and everything, right? But when I was doing the live show, I was always afraid that when I farted, for 3 weeks I was incontinent. And when I jumped up, it's because I had extreme diarrhea. But I still did the show. You guys just didn't know that there was always a chance that I would make a giant mess. I timed it pretty well. So what they found after doing all the tests, which, you know, I said to people a few times, it's, you know, all the tests came back negative. Okay? Even though there are things that were wrong with me, but they came back negative. And what that meant was that, like a normal person, I don't have any of those things that they would test for to fix, right? It's not fixable. It is because I'm in the final stages of AIDS. Now, the final stages could last a year or 5 years. I mean, they told me I was going to die 20 years ago, and look, I'm still here. But what was definitely proved beyond a doubt is that I am now, there is no fixing my immune system. If you know anything about HIV or any of that, there's a number, a T cell number is what it's called. And the T cell is your number that tells you how, you know, what your body has for fighting off colds or things like that. No, it is not horrible, Obus, and I'm only going to say this one time because I wanted some of you to understand what's happened, and I want you to I'm not going to, after this, I'm not going to talk about it anymore. I hope that this helps me to release it enough that I've told a few people. And any of you that hear the story are very welcome to, if someone says, well, I don't know why he's sick, you're very much welcome to tell them that I am full-blown AIDS in the final stages. But I'm not going to use the show or the radio as a platform to, like I do with when we discuss politics and things. I'm not going to use it like that for the AIDS, because I believe that many people are uncomfortable with the people who have AIDS. It's thought of that you know, are you a drug addict? Are you you know, are you a Mary Queen? Or, you know, so I think that it's unacceptable to talk about in public, or at least in our community, because we have fun in our community. And you never knew that I was really sick like this before, and I think that we will continue on, and you won't know. What I was saying about the T cells is, like a normal person has 500 or 600 T cells. This is an actual number of cells so that you can take care of yourself, you know, for colds and things like that. Everyone has them. I mean, if you're not an HIV person, you can actually get a T cell count and see what, you know, how healthy, you know, how some people are healthier than others. The T cells can go into, you know, can go over 1,000, you know, like Backfrom. I mean, Backfrom's so healthy that he drives you fucking crazy, because he's Swedish and he's nuts. So his T cells are probably 50 million. That was humor. Yeah, that was my attempt at humor. So after all the tests came back negative, what you were left with was that, like the diarrhea that I have or had, we seem to have it under control right now. If you've ever heard of cancer patients, it is called wasting. I've lost 10 pounds since I was there. It's possible that I will start to look a little like people who are sick because I have wasting. I have AIDS wasting. And you don't really necessarily fix it. You can try and keep the diarrhea under control, but in the final stages, one of the symptoms is wasting. The other symptom is that I don't feel things like in my feet. I have, I've never told you. I've never really emphasized that, like my 3 left toes, I don't feel at all. I don't know if you remember when I bought those boots, that I spent $200 and something on those boots. It's because I wanted to have something that would help support my feet. Because I don't feel parts of my feet anymore. It can get in my hands. It's extremities, extremities. But I think that we've also affected that some. And not that I feel my toes now, but I don't. My hands don't necessarily feel like there's a problem. And I thought that was starting. With the T cells, to finish the conversation, with the T cells, most people can be 500-600. Okay? I have now only 34 T cells left. Which is, it's kind of like saying that I have no immune system whatsoever. 34, the next time they test could be 24. It can be 0. I've known people that went for years and the test comes back and it says 0 and they have no immune system. It just means the reason why I now take every single day Bactrim is for pneumonia. Normally, like, I don't know if you've ever seen, like, maybe your grandparents were in the hospital and they gave them the inhaler because they were afraid that they would have pneumonia, or they had pneumonia, and that's what what was in the inhaler was Bactrim. I now take that every single day because they're afraid at any given moment I will get pneumonia because I have no immune system. So, where we are now, I decided that I would take the HIV medicine again, because there's been such an outpouring of people who care, and that I don't think it's fair that I just let myself die. In all the time that you've known me, I've done the show, and I have been sitting here waiting to die, because I am tired, and it was a choice I made. It's like a cancer patient who chooses not to do chemotherapy. I chose not to take the pills, and I think after 5 years of still being alive, which no one ever believed that would happen, that I could survive for 5 years, there's obviously a reason for me to keep going. And a lot of it has to do with the fact, and whether you like it or not, I think that the show and my talking about politics or things that we've discussed, I think that I've helped some of you to get a different perspective on the world. And I think that what I've done with the show and the audience participation is worth living about. So the medication that I'm going to take today, this will be the first time, costs $710 a month, and is basically, if you know anything about AIDS, they call it a cocktail. It's 3 pills. Until it gets like settled in my body, it will make me sick, throwing up and things. It is like chemotherapy, that there will be good days and bad days when I take the pill that just will make me very sick. Throwing up, not sick, no matter what, it will help to keep the, it won't change. The other number that you have to deal with AIDS is your viral load. It's a number that how much virus is running around your body. Okay? The idea is if you take the HIV medicine, you can make that viral load 0 and there isn't any viruses running around. It doesn't fix your immune system, your T cells necessarily, but it stops the virus from running around, which keeps you from getting opportunistic things. My viral load is in the several thousands, like 50 or 60,000 at the moment. I think the doctor, when they got the number back, wanted to smack the living shit out of me. She was very angry at me. Most HIV people, you have a couple of thousand or something like that. The danger is the virus is running around and can make you susceptible to AIDS-specific problems. You know, and there's a lot of them. Oh my God, there's all kinds. There's one that that makes you blind. The most scariest one, I believe, and I've always been very scared, is, and pregnant women can get it too, which it's funny, but they can recover from it, and I can't, is there's a parasite that's in kitty litter, and you can get the parasite in your brain, and when you see AIDS patients who don't know what they're doing, it's not because they have dementia like an old person. It's because they have that parasite in their brain, and there's no fixing it. Once it's, I've known 3 people in my life who got it. 2 of them, you really have like 4 or 5 days. Once they see that it's the parasite, you have about 4 or 5 days, and then you're no longer there. You don't flash back in and out or anything. You're just completely finished, crazy. 2 of them killed themselves immediately, and one of them survived for a couple of months. But what happens is, it's like dementia, that your body sooner or later fucks something up because it doesn't know what it's doing, and then you die. So it's basically a death sentence, but it's a very horrible death sentence. And you have a very short period of time. If you're interested in how it works, or any of these things, there is a good movie, because people think, oh, there's always a chance. Well, there isn't a chance with this. There's a DVD movie called It's My Party, And what it is about a man who got that in their brain, and it's the night that he has everybody come and talk to him and everything. And then in the old days, there used to be people who would help you to take the various things that you needed to kill yourself, and that's what the movie's about. So, but that's the old days, okay? These days you go to the hospital and the doctor tortures you fucking forever, and then you just die because you can't fucking stand looking at them anymore. If you're just tuning in, hello Argonaut. I'm not, you can see that this is a complicated subject. I am not going to say this again. I'm not going to, we're going to go back to normal after this, and I will answer the questions the way I used to. When someone says, why, you know, why do you have so much time? I will say, oh, I just have disability. Haven't been able to work. I will not make our TV and our radio a platform to I don't know what you would call it. I'm not going to use it as a platform for people. There's no reason, even though I could, because this would be a wonderful way to get people to be open-minded. I don't think that it's fair to explain to people on a constant basis about AIDS and things like that. I think it's a drag, and it's a private thing. And in all the time that I've done the shows, I've only met 2 other people who hooked up, and I was able to help them through a bad night because they had AIDS. So I don't think there's any reason. Most of you won't be sick with this. We have several people who are actually very sick that watch the show, and I think the other day we talked about it, and it was the first time that I knew that 2 of our regulars are very sick with various things. And I think we can talk about that, but I don't think that we need to ever really go into depth like what I'm doing right now. So, I am in the final stages of AIDS, what they call the final stages, which could last a long time. I have no immune system, so I will take pills like as if I was a 70-year-old to keep me from getting pneumonia or things like that. The final thing that I did was they are filling out the paperwork for hospice. Hospice, you go, most of the time you go and you have like about 6 months. You need, for a real hospice, the doctor has to confirm that you have 6 months to live. The hospice that I have set up will do all the paperwork, and if I go to the hospital again like this and it's very serious, then it's fully set up that I wouldn't come home and that they would put me into the hospice so that I could be comfortable for the last few months. So, you can ask questions now. My story is not, it's sad, but I've spent most of my life, my adult life, living with AIDS, and helping people. I lived in a hospice for a whole year, and it's a funny story. I've said it before that I lived in the hospice, but when I was in the hospice, I was dying. I was meant to die. You didn't just go to the hospice